Hey guys, my name is Haley, and I'm filming part 2 of my commentary on the digital ticket of Cinderella's Castle. If you have not seen part 1, please go check it out in the comments in the doobly doo below. I also will leave a link to my other video from when I saw this live in LA earlier this year in July, but we're going to jump right into it. This is going to be for all of my notes for Act 2, which I just rewatched this morning before my digital ticket expires, which I am definitely going to purchase again and hold on to for dear life before October 8th until they can give it back to me. Sometime next year when it comes out on YouTube. I will say my notes for Act 2 are a little bit shorter just because I believe it is a shorter act, but also Ash to Ash isn't in this act. And that was 90% of my notes for the first half, so there's that. Because I have so many lore questions, and almost all of them are from Act 1. Also, my footage was like 47, 48 minutes. It took so long to edit. So I will try not to ramble as much because that was an experience and why this was split into 2 days. Yes, we're starting off with this act starts off with the ball of the prince coming out in his regalia with all of the bisexual lighting, as I always called it out. That was the first thing I said to my partner when the prince walked out on stage and all of the purple and blue and pink lights came up. I was like, oh, the bisexual lighting. Love it. Fits the prince so well. My first notes were of the trolls, the stepmother and the stepsisters, of the I laughed so hard at future screaming, do you think the prince will like me? And Angela just goes, no, no one likes you. Comedy gold line right there. And then we have the hi, my name is Putris. It means vomit inducing. Like, I love Putris. I think Mariah plays her so well. And her delivery of that line is fantastic. I also wrote down that I adore the fact that Ransilda gets the prince's attention because he's very much not about either of them at first. She gets his attention by being like convinced. One, she thinks he's a troll, but also she gets his attention with a blowjob joke. Which also, where did Ransilda hear a riddle about blowjobs? I want to know how that happened. But also, it was hilarious. And then the prince's line of, can I marry them both? And Thaddeus just so deadpan, being like, not without another war against the church. Excuse me? Another? How many wars have we had against the church? And was it like against the kingdom in general has always fought with the church, or is this like the prince's reign, even though he's not king yet, or his dad's reign has been nothing but constant wars with the church? Like, what have they done? How many wars with the church have they had? It's just a very, very funny implication that they've had so many wars with the church because of how vile this prince's family is. Also, one of my big comments is Ella's dress is everything. I can't tell you how pretty it was in person, and it even looks great from far away on the camera. I can't wait to see that with some editing and some color correcting for the YouTube like pro shot. It's gonna look so good. It's so pretty and it's so well done. Whoever created that dress as part of whether it's costume or props or both combined, they did an incredible job. Like, that is a Broadway worthy glow in the dark dress. It's so good. And then I have neon slaps. Oh wait, I missed one. I have Crumb's tiny little Scottish accent is so goddamn cute. Literally anytime Crumb talks, I just like want to squeal. He's so cute. And I know we all love Joey, but like, if you are not looking at Joey's face, I don't know how that voice comes out of Joey. I know they said that in my last video, but again, casting the 6'3" man to play the tiniest puppets is so funny and adorable. But yes, I have neon slaps, and the bisexual lighting is perfection. This song in particular fits James's voice so well. It's so sultry and like deep, and like he just fits the entire vibe of the song. James's moves, as we all know, James is a well-versed choreographer. His moves in this are so good. They're so smooth. They're so slick. He looks so good with Ella. I love it. And I have two lines I wanted to point out from this song, and that is that if I see it, can I touch it? If I feel it, will I love it? That is quite possibly the horniest line I've ever heard in my entire life. And it fits the prince so well as this scene. It's so funny. And also the let me be your martyr, which is one of his lines towards the end. So sensual, so sexy. It like this song in particular paints the prince in like the best light we've seen him in the whole show. Of normally he's just like a horny little man child who wants to get his way, and then this one is like the one time we see him of him actually turning his charms on for another person, which I find very interesting. Then the next scene I have written down, I cannot believe that I did not see Ella and Thaddeus coming. Like, none of us saw that coming. When they announced Thaddeus's name, we were like, who is that? And all they said was the prince's lackey. And we were like, okay. Like, Kurt's played a lot of like secondary like buddy characters for a main character, but we did not realize, one, that Thaddeus was going to be such a big character, and two, that he was going to be a love interest, let alone a love interest for Ella. It was like shocking to me when I realized that's what was happening, especially in this scene. And their banter is so good. One of my favorite lines is the how do you address the servant? And he goes, kindly, I'd guess. It's also just so nice to see Kurt in a leading role. Like, we have not, like, the closest thing to a leading role I think that he's had was as Howard Goodman in Black Friday, and he killed that role. So seeing him in a leading role where he gets some singing parts and like so many lines, let alone a romantic role, which we've never seen him in, I loved seeing him play that. And they are so cute together. Alongside the banter, their like interactions with each other are adorable. And then when they're talking about, he was like, I would rather take one of the vulgar stepsisters over anyone else, and she goes, no, those who would bring rotten ruination to this land, which to me almost implies, were the trolls the ones who brought ruination, like the fires of ruination, which have been mentioned several times early in the show? Were they the ones that brought those originally? Was it a war against the trolls? I'm assuming there was a war against the trolls based on the fact that, one, the flames of ruination have been mentioned a lot. Two, the trolls clearly want to get vengeance, or at the very least the stepmother does, against the menfolk. And also, what are they? The Griswold girls. Their brother hunts trolls, so clearly there's a reason to want to hunt them. I'm just very curious if the trolls were the reason for all of that. And then I also love the line in this one of Thaddeus very clearly like, well, we can't just kill the king like that. He is already thinking about how he's going to get rid of the king because he doesn't like where the monarchy is currently, which is so funny because he's like, what? No. She was like, I wasn't talking about the king. He was like, neither was I. Coupled with his line later in the show, so funny. And then we have Will It Ever Ever Happily. Or what is this song called? I think it's called Will It Ever Ever Happily. But that line in general is such a perfect line for a musical about fairy tales. It's such a clever line for a musical about fairy tales. And the tune of that, the will it ever ever happily, has like stayed trapped in my brain since I heard the demo months and months and months ago. And Bryce kills this song. I remember she was not too far in front of me when I saw it live. I was in the second row. She was probably like right here, and she's on the very edge of the stage. And I was just in awe of not only her vocals in that scene, but also her dress. Alongside all of that and all the callbacks to earlier in the show, it was such a cool scene. And then one of my other favorite lines of just like lyrics that have stayed trapped in my brain is the when I was four, lay in bed and paint a picture with my thoughts. Like that line. One, so fun to sing. Two, such a good callback to the Griswold girls and all of Last Forever. Love it. Love that line. It just enters my brain randomly at random times. And then we have the scene where Sir Hopalot is fighting the random guard that the stepmother has sent after them. And this is a line I did not catch live. I don't know if I just didn't hear Joey say it or it didn't click what he had said, but you're doing great, sir, you're beating them all off. And he goes, phrasing crumb, and it's literally, you're beating them all off. As a sexual innuendo line is so funny, but hearing it come from Crumb, who's like this innocent little mouse, so funny. And then in this scene, the breaking of the fourth wall when Crumb jumps onto Angela to like distract her from Ella as she's trying to run away after she gets the slipper. The complete breaking of the fourth wall where Bryce and Joey like look at each other with their hands on their face like in shock is so funny. It's such a funny like breaking the fourth wall of the puppets in general. It's very very Starkid humor, and I was dying laughing live. And then for this scene, I also have Jeff's faces walking out after the prince's foot fetish is revealed of his. So funny. They're so funny. Jeff is such a talented person when it comes to improvisation, which I feel like is very obvious with his playing of the narrator, that he definitely plays with the audience a lot. He changes a lot of his lines here and there depending on what night you were there. Like there were a lot of things that he said when we were there that are not in this recording, which I believe was of the Saturday shows, or like he'll interact with the audience at certain points. He's so good at improv. And then we get to watch, or want you to watch, or whatever this song is called. This is the only song that we got no preview of. There was no demo, there was no like spoilers, nothing. We didn't know the song existed, and it's like one of the two that we didn't get any like preamble of, which made it so much more exciting, in my opinion, to see live, because we didn't know it was going to happen. And it's obvious now why we didn't get a demo of it, because it's an entirely huge spoiler that you can't even get around with a demo playing any part of it. But also, Angela sounds so good in this scene, especially with the echo effects they add for all three of them, as like the stepsisters are also doing echoes and stuff for her. But it's also such a depressing and just horrific scene. It's literally them cutting off Ella's foot. And Bryce's acting is so good in this scene too. Like it's such a hard scene to pull off, and I feel like they did it flawlessly. And then we have a line that just like literally I feel like echoes the entire audience's feelings at that moment right after Want You to Watch or whatever it's called. Is Ragweed's going, "You killed Cinderella!" Like literally what the fuck? Because that was my exact thought when this happened. I was like, did we kill her off? Like I fully anticipated at this point that we were going to have some sort of like magic involved, like Doctor Who-esque Hamilton like satisfied scene of we're going to rewind time and like change it somehow. And that is not at all what happened. But that's where my like sci-fi fantasy brain took it. And I thought it was really interesting. Like it was a complete shock in the middle of a fairy tale to kill off your main character and have no idea if or how you will bring her back. It was a very bold move on Nick and Matt's part. And then I also have written down the saga of Joey as the tiniest puppets and the tallest person in the cast continues. So like when he runs off stage as Ragweed, where Ragweed goes, "I'm in the audience now." So funny. A very underrated song, which is the only other one besides Watch that we got that we didn't have a preview for, and that's the like facade / Want You to Watch little reprise we have here. Is so good. It's literally like I think 30-40 second song, and it's so good. Like I love that we had another callback to Facade. I love that Watch was thrown in there. It was so interesting. And then I also have the nice zoom in on Jeff and the guy liner. I really like the scene with this whole scene of like the wedding and such is really interesting because we got a little bit of a better glimpse of what it might look like when the show comes to YouTube, because it's a much closer, it's not the full stage, and they had to do that because this entire scene is a bunch of people out in the audience and you have to have two different camera angles for that. And then also Lauren laying on the stairs out in the audience was so funny, but also like I would like to point out that when she was out there, her and Angela, they were like not even 2 feet away from me. So I was so distracted. I always say, as someone who has been a Starkid fan for so long, for like 15 years now, that to me, the people who like represent Starkid are Joey and Lauren, because they've been in every single show except for one of them each. There's certain shows they haven't been in. So they are like the face of Starkid to me. So being that close to Lauren in particular was like a big, like, I was trying very hard not to fangirl. And that was just like one of the few times I was like, she's right there. Like it was such a surreal experience for me in particular as such a long time Starkid fan. But also, she's fucking hilarious in that scene. If she's like sitting there, like on her back, glaring at Putris and her mom. And she like gets up and hisses at Putris at one point. It's so funny. Like the more I watch the show, the more I love Ransilda's character because she is so ridiculous and so funny. I also really like that they point out in this scene that there's this idea that trolls need to be like invited in, like almost like vampires in this case, because they have to be able to take the skin of someone and you can't just do that out in the open where everybody can see you because then it ruins the facade. And I have written down that long wig on Bryce looks so good. Bryce also was standing directly next to me during the scene, and she looked ethereal in that costume, in that wig, standing like not even a foot away from me. She looked so good. She was absolutely stunning up close. And then when Putris obviously dies with that whole scene of Sir Hopalella like cutting his way out of her stomach, but also the fact that Ransilda pulls the I don't want to live your dream like Disney Channel line is so funny to me. And also, I know Hopalot and Crumb like chase her off, but it is very clear that they don't say whether or not they caught her. So I truly hope that we find Ransilda under a bridge doing riddles with random people in some other show in the Lands that are, because I think that would be a great callback. And then also, I love the perfection of the stepmother troll turning to stone by Ella's trappings of starlight. It was such a dramatic and good ending for that character as opposed to just killing her that she turns to stone the way that all of the other trolls, I'm assuming, were in the Flames of Ruination or whatever they're called or whatever happened before with the trolls. It's such a powerful scene. And then I have written down a whole spiel about Trappings of Starlight, so I'm going to get into that. So for me, Trappings of Starlight is such a powerful and healing song as somebody who came out of the church because I was not morally comfortable with a lot of their practices. So seeing a gospel song written in a not remotely religious context was so healing and nice for me because I do like the genre of music of gospel, but it is very much like taken over by Christians and like Christian churches. The only other show I've ever seen, and it is a Christian based show that has a gospel song, other than like literally Sister Act, which is also a religious show, is Children of Eden, which is a show that I did way back when. And I love the gospel song in that one too. But having a gospel song in a not remotely religious show that talks about like multiple gods is so exciting for me. Like I love that this song even exists within this context. Because a lot of the way Christianity treats things and the way that gospel is treated because of it holds a like taint for me now, seeing so many people weaponize it for their own benefit. That's a whole thing I'm not going to get into. But I also love that this gospel song in particular is all about Ella's fury at this senseless slaughter of her friends. And then how she's going to do better with her kingdom as she rules. I love it for the same reason I love all the commentary about the gods and the goddesses not caring about the morality of man when it comes to like the fairy queen and such. Of this gospel is very much just about Ella and her righteous fury of being angry that her friends died for no reason because of these evil trolls. And then a great line, and this is the perhaps he smothered himself with that pillow, I wrote, is such a funny way to say, oops, I killed the king. Because we were all dying when we heard it live, because clearly it's clear in earlier scenes that Thaddeus was planning to get rid of the king somehow, and the prince being murdered by the trolls just like escalated all of that. I also have written down that I wish Kurt would sing in his lower register so much more. His lower register, that when he sings in Trappings of Starlight, is so pretty. Like we've heard Kurt sing, but it's usually up. Ooh, hit the mic. We've heard Kurt sing, but it's usually up in his like higher like belting voice. And hearing his lower register, I was like, I need more of this. Thank you. Whoever is casting curtain roles, lower register, thank you, please. And then we have at the end of this scene where the narrator, again, Jeff playing with the crowd and trying to get laughs very successfully, is where he's walking around because the spotlight goes a little bit forward of him, so he's not quite in it, and he literally like goes back and forth and like jumps into the spotlight. Such a fun way. Like I don't know if that was planned or if the spotlight actually was not in the right spot or Jeff wasn't in the right spot or what. but it's such a fun way to get a laugh from the audience, and it worked. And then we have the Nighting scene with Crumb. This one in particular stood out to my boyfriend. He talked about it for like weeks after, of like he really, really loves Sir Hop-a-Lot and Crumb. And that knighting scene is just something that I feel like a lot of men grew up with for some reason, really thinking knighting is like the epitome of like glory or whatever. But he said the knighting scene really, really touched him. And also Crumb being so cute in that scene is obviously a big part of it. And then we have the final scene of the callback to Castle on a Hill with the lyric changes. Is so good. I didn't know they were going to sing Castle on a Hill again. It's the perfect way to end the show. Having Kim and Kurt, who in the very first scene of Castle on the Hill, where Kurt is the one who goes, "The bridge is coming down." Having Kim play the other, "The Queen is coming out," in this scene, for some reason, was such a good foil for Kurt's echo earlier. Almost like a representation of the patriarchy beforehand, of all the men in charge at the castle, to the matriarchy now of having the girl being excited. Like, that in particular is how I took it, of it is like the acceptance of like the matriarchy and how women are going to rule in power right now, and it's so good. I thought it was so good. And yeah, those are all of my notes that I have. I also, at this time, it is Tuesday, and the VHS Christmas Carols tickets just went on sale, and I got tickets to Saturday night. So if you're going to the Saturday night showing of VHS Christmas Carols in Chicago, please let me know in the comments down below. I would love to meet some of you. I'm definitely planning on making bracelets and such like I did for Cinderella's Castle, but I hope you all enjoyed these videos. I'm hoping to make a lot more Starkid ones. I especially am probably going to make some for VHS Christmas Carols, so there's a lot more Starkid content coming your way soon, hopefully. But thank you all for watching, and I will see all of you guys next time.